Well, somebody said it. Rich Rodriguez should be a Hall of Famer, but do we agree? That's the topic. Stick around. We're going to talk about it.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up? Welcome back in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. Welcome into Locked On West Virginia, baby, where we're talking about some football. It's a good day when you can talk about football. Am I right or am I right? Guys, appreciate you for joining in as we talk about the episode sponsor today. Going to be brought to you by Monarch Money. And look, if you want to take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com, you can get 50% off your first year, and you can tell them I sent you. Not a bad deal for that. So if you want to start buying DoorDash and lose a couple pounds like me, feel free. Appreciate you guys for joining in, guys. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is very appreciative of all of the support you guys have each and every week. So wanted to do something different, pretty cool today, a little special. You guys are pouring in quick. So Kickoff to Tip-Off is a show I ran across over the last couple of weeks. A couple good old West Virginia fans that have started a channel talking about West Virginia sports. And you guys know me. I'm all about helping people that, I was helped, right, when I started. So these guys are very knowledgeable on the Mountaineers. Even though they have a new channel, you wouldn't know it by listening to them talk. So I want to bring them on, man. Two really cool cats, Noah and Gage, man. Welcome to the show.
Well, we appreciate you, MP, man. It's definitely an honor. Of course, we recognize somebody in the West Virginia sports media side of things to kind of give us a chance to come on here. Like you said, talk some football, right? It's always a good day when you're doing that. It helps when the baseball team is having the success that they are right now. But my goodness, man, I mean, Noah and I were just talking about it. You got to be sick in the head to be thinking about football, and we are ill, man. We're ready for it. So
straight up ill.
Yeah.
Well, so I was trying to think of a topic for us, and hey, Michelle, got to seeing this thing with Kenny Dillingham today. Did you guys get to see that? So basically, and this came out, I think, on the 1st, but I hadn't gotten to it to today because we have baseball, like you said. And basically, Kenny Dillingham took the podium with Kansas coach Lance Leopold to basically talk about the conference and its competitiveness. And they kind of went to the coaching side of things rather than the player side of things to talk about it. And I agree. Ton of really good coaches in this conference. I think you have to say, maybe Mike Gundy or another guy could be number one for now, all time in this league right now, as far as the teams that are left in there. But Kenny Dillingham is number one if you're going to talk about a young up and coming coach that's got the juice right now. And instead of focusing on a guy like that, he mentioned Leopold, but I think that's because he was right there with him. And here's the quote: "This league is so competitive. How many guys in our league have won a national championship? It's unbelievable. When you look at a guy like Rich Rodriguez, that's a guy who could go into the Hall of Fame. He changed the entire game of how you play offensive football for an era. Our league is so competitive because I think coaches in this league are phenomenal, and I think we have one of the best coach leagues out there." And that gave me a thought, guys. Noah, tell me why or why not you think Rich Rodriguez is a Hall of Famer.
I think Rich Rod's a Hall of Famer in the sense of his ability to, change and actually change the way a defensive coach has to look at the game of football, because his up-tempo air raid offense, not air raid, but spread offense, I should say, with the RPOs, zone reads, those type of things. He completely took something and changed the game on how a defensive coach has to, prepare for a team. Even before he was a Mountaineer, he coached at Clemson and Tulane, I believe, are the two schools Rich Rod was at. And even back in good old West Virginia, Glenville State, he was the head coach there and started innovating this offense. Every year, it seems to get a little bit better. And I think he's a Hall of Fame coach just looking at the success he's had at multiple programs, success that he had at West Virginia. Michigan was a rough stint. I kind of think, maybe his time there, he wasn't given enough time to fully flip that program. Yeah. Arizona, he had a pretty good, every program he's been at outside of Michigan, he's went over 500. He's had a good season. A good point I look at here, his winning percentage is at 596. At 595, it was just changed for Mike Leach. He's over the winning percentage to qualify for the Hall of Fame candidacy. So I really think that Rich Rod has a very, very good chance of making the Hall of Fame, and he has to sustain his success at West Virginia to make sure he stays over that winning percentage, just out of innovation and the way he's been able to lead programs himself. I mean, I think he makes a good case. Like, you would have such a hard case or an equal take on why wouldn't he be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
I love that point. And it's probably a little easier, or harder, I would say, to go that route. We'll try to make the case he shouldn't be in. I think people will probably take the stance of off the field if they were going to try, right? The nastiness that was in the wake of the West Virginia job and the way he left that, or the Arizona fling, right? That's the only things you can really say outside of a couple losing seasons. I think this Jackson State job, Gage, is as impressive a job as anything else he's done, taking an FCF's roster, winning the MAC in year 2 with it.
Yeah, I mean, to go down right from that level, West Virginia, Michigan to Arizona, and then to drop down there to Jacksonville State and do what he did was, like you said, I mean, it's unheard of a coach of his kind of standard, right? To go do what he did and now kind of return to home. And it kind of build off Noah's point, right? The tenure at Michigan and Arizona was kind of shaky, but unlike other coaches that we saw in recent kind of times in college football, Rich Rod has who
at Arizona. Nobody.
Nobody at Arizona.
Yeah, Fish couldn't get it done. I mean, yeah, it's been tough for a long time there. I'm thinking from the aspect of Rich Rod has this opportunity to do something that we've not saw a coach maybe ever in a long time. He has the chance to cement this Hall of Fame. If he comes back here to West Virginia and let's just say best case scenario wins a Big 12 championship or wins a New Year's Six Bowl, there is no doubt in my mind, there's no conversation where he doesn't make it, right? Because we've saw, like you mentioned, a lot of kind of the hate and nastiness that happened when Rich Rod left the first time. What people kind of fail to realize was his relationship with the athletic department at that time. He was looking out for the better of us, right? He was wanting upgrades, more money for his assistant coaches. It's easy to kind of play that, well, he left in the middle of the night. He did this. But in reality, he was looking out for us the whole time. And it just so happened, we just saw it here with a name that Noah and I don't like to mention, DeVries, when somebody in a program sweeps in with money and offers a hefty amount, we know how things go in this world. It's hard to turn it down. But absolutely, man, I think we're going to see great things, and he's going to cement his legacy. That's kind of my take on Rich Rod, Hall of Famer.
Don't get me started on DeVries again. I've already got their fans all over me, man. They're like, why won't you let it go? Like, it's past time.
You can't.
I mean, but like I keep doing research, or not research, but I keep investigating it, obviously. And you get different intel from people. Now that people have moved on to other schools, they're more willing to talk about it. And this is going back to Drake. This isn't just West Virginia players. I've spoken to players from Drake and West Virginia about Coach DeVries. And, there are players that love him. I didn't say this yesterday, but there are players that love him. But, man, there are a lot of players that don't like him either. The worst, I wouldn't say he's a bad person, but he's definitely in the coaching realm, not a good person, So I think that's because I think there's a distinction between just being a sleazebag person and a bad person in the industry. Because I think coaches lie all the time. We know that. So it just happened to us this time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, coach talk. I mean, that happens all the time.
To cement what everybody said, basically, let's look over this resume really quick. 190 and 192, which you said a 596 winning percentage across 27 years at a ton of institutions. Started out there at Salem and then Glenville College, then at WVU, where he just 60-26. We know what he did in the 5 bowl games, Big East Conference championships, domination in a pit. 13-9 is the only blemish that you can even speak of during that tenure outside his first year. The Michigan job, 15-22 and 0-1. But if you've ever read the book 3 and Out, it'll tell you a lot about exactly why that happened the way it did and why Brady Hoke didn't stay long until, he won with Rodriguez's players, and then he was gone after that. Arizona, you got a 10-4 season, Pac-12 South Championship, Fiesta Bowl. Find me somebody else outside of 1 year from Jed Fish that's had anything close to that, and that's in the history of the program. And then at Jack State, 27-10, 1-0, New Orleans Bowl, and guided Jacksonville State through an FCS to FBS transition. He was winning in year 1 of that thing too from the FCS. So he was, he would have won the national title at the FCS level, but I have no doubt if they would have stayed FCS. So 14 total bowl appearances as a head coach, 6-6 record at the mid-major schools, 5 Coach of the Year honors across 3 conferences, 2 Big East, 1 Pac-12, 1 Conference USC, and 2 WVIAC, plus an NIA National Coach of the Year award. We talked about the innovation, offensive coordinator at Tulane, Clemson, Ole Miss, Louisiana Monroe, and a CBS analyst, if you want to throw that in. And the development of talent. How about this? How about a Hall of Fame eyeballs, Hall of Fame picker? You get a Pat White, you turn him from a defensive back into one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the, that's never won a Heisman anyway, of the game, 4-0 in bowl games. And then the running backs, this year, I have no doubt this year. They did it last year at Jack State. Trey Stewart was a Division II kid from Limestone. He led the country in rushing. He's just such a great evaluator of talent as well. All right, guys, I think we'll go to break on that note. Let's grade his offseason next. I know you guys are looking forward to this segment. I want to hear from Noah, and I want to hear from Gage on this. How did Rich Rodriguez do in your mind? I put a poll out. A lot of people felt it was different. We had A's, we had B's, we had C's, we had S tier. So I'm curious how you guys feel, and we're going to debate it hotly right next, guys. Stick around. This is Locked On West Virginia with countdown or kickoff to tip-off. It's hard to say. If I can hit the right button, there it is. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Monarch Money, guys. And look, we talked about it earlier. If you want Monarch Money, this is the place to find it. And if you've ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control of your finances. It's not just a budgeting app, guys. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending in one easy, convenient place. So you stop managing your money and start building your wealth. And look, that's the all-in-one convenience this app provides of juggling multiple apps. You don't have to do that with Monarch Money. You can check your finances, track your spending, and plan long-term goals right here, right now. And look, take control of your finances with Monarch Money today. Use Locked On College at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'll say it again. Use code Locked On College at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And do it now. Do it yesterday. It's the app of today, baby. It's segment 2. I'm gonna crack a do with the Dr. Pepper lid on it because I've dropped my lid. Let's dive in here, fellas. So I've got the list here. If you guys need to hear all the transfers that have come in, I'm sure you guys did. You guys have probably been following it as closely as I have anyway. So it's probably burned into your memory by now, all the players we have. But it's not just players, and I want to point that out on this because I think, if you're going to grade this full offseason, Gage, it's coaches too.
It is, and that's why I'll started off hot and heavy here. I'm going to give this grade for Rich Rod's offseason an A. And my key point that I want to point out of why it's an A, the addition of Zach Alley alone that alone gets it to an A for me. From what we've saw, both defensive and just, if you want to say a scheme, I'm not sure. There were times in games, especially at Texas Tech last year, where I'm not sure we even had a game plan going in there. But this addition of Zach Alley alone is going to improve this team tremendously. And it's a guy that Rich Rod has put so much faith in, has talked so highly in over his entire time working with him, that now we get to see him, obviously at Oklahoma with Venables, but now we get to see him run his own defense. That alone is super exciting to see. As Mountaineer fans, I think it's something we're going to appreciate. Noah kind of has a great take. I'll let him explain later. He kind of thinks that Zach Alley could potentially be a successor if he doesn't get poached to Rich Rod and this West Virginia team. You kind of flip over to the player side of this, right? You mentioned the Jacksonville State and the success that they had. Well, there's a key reason for that, because there's going to be a ton of guys who are playing crucial roles for the Mountaineers this upcoming season coming from that team. And I think a lot of those key pieces alone elevate kind of the transfer portal, the player addition side. And then you chip in a bunch of other guys that he's brought in and kind of still added, right? We went through a stretch there probably 2-3 weeks ago where it was like, we added
every
who?
day.
We got, every day we got this from who?
I was so happy.
Yeah. I mean, we're still kind of getting familiar with faces at every single position. But for me, it's easy to sit here in the offseason and give a high grade, but I give it an A based off of, I think that both the coaching additions and the players in year one, considering what we've saw the past few years of Mountaineer football, this is going to kind of be the start and propel West Virginia football into bringing it back to life. We know what this football program is about. We know it's a staple in college football when they're on and winning. And that's what everybody was so upset with in the Neil Brown era. It's like we knew, and we're so accustomed to just better, right? The standard is way higher. And I think that both Rich Rod, Zach Alley, Trickett, everybody he's added, they all understand that and are going to bring that standard back.
Love to hear it, man. And Noah, I'm sure you've got a great take. You wanted to talk about Alley there as a successor?
Yeah. Whenever you look at Alley, a younger head coach who has been by Rich Rod's side, this isn't the first time. I think Rich Rod's identified Alley as, one of the up and coming, next best head coaches in, college football. And I don't think that's far to say. Right. And it's kind of funny coming from Rich Rod, who's an offensive minded guy, choosing, kind of like a defensive successor, saying like, hey, if I can give you the reins in, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, whenever he's ready to hang it up, I could see Alley having like a long career here at West Virginia, knowing that if him and Rich Rod and, the whole coaching staff can bring West Virginia back, to the top of the Big 12 or, one of those top 4 teams in the Big 12 yearly consistently, Zach Alley would love to have that job. You're coaching in the Big 12 where you're not playing, SEC offenses where you have to get big in the trenches, right? We all know. And the
Right.
SEC, if you don't recruit defensive linemen, offensive linemen, well, you're going to struggle in that conference. Yeah.
Yep.
So in the Big 12, you can kind of be a outlier in the defensive, and especially we've seen Iowa State be very successful in the Big 12 defensively, and that's kind of Zach Alley's defense is very similar in the sense to what Iowa State runs with that three high back.
Right.
Yep. So it'll just be very, very interesting to see if that is what happens with Alley. Kind of in the sense of a grade, I think position player for the position players that we received, in the portal, whatever, I would kind of give that a B. Only reason is we did go, a little bit lower in, just say mid-major football. I shouldn't say group of 5 football. We grabbed some players from lower, but we also got some players from, SEC schools. So there's kind of a mix there. And how much did we just go and pull best player available compared to what fits our scheme, essentially? But also to hit on exactly what Gage said, my coaching hires is A, because we have a little bit of homegrown, you got Pat White, you have Trickett, you have guys that know what it is to be a Mountaineer and understand, the mentality you have to have, and you're literally playing for the whole state, which is unlike anything these other coaches have seen. And then you add, the outside guys like Alley and Porter, and I'm blanking on the offensive line head coach, the offensive line. Yep. So Bicknell, you add those guys who obviously have great schemes, have tenures long, and have a lot of knowledge to bring. When you add that all together, I mean, I just think it's a beautiful puzzle. they're at the coaching staff level.
Yeah, but Gage, do you take something off of this because of the loss of a Matt Moore, not letting, there was a period there where you could have kept Matt Moore, you could have kept some players, right? You could have kept Chad Scott the first time around, maybe keep CJ Donaldson. Do you think that Rich Rod's hesitancy, and I'm not saying it's an easy call here, you don't want to be attached to Neil Brown's people, I get it, but do you keep a Trey Lathan and a Josiah Trotter and some kids like that if you keep those two coaches around? And should we dock him a point or two for that?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a discussion that a lot of people, when you're looking at strictly positives, right, it's easy to kind of give the B and the A grades. But when you look at, every year now, the way that the transfer portal, everything works, you're losing major production. On the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned CJ Donaldson. Hudson Clement's not going to be there. In a room where we already had some question marks at wide receiver. You flip over the defense, Trotter, a couple other guys you named. So, like you said, it's hard to juggle, do I want kind of Neil Brown's guys still around? Do I want his players here? And for me, I think when you're talking about his whole staple, right? Hard edge, the whole culture part of it, I think it's almost better to, in a sense, clean house, right? And leave it up to the players and I think he did this from day one, right? In the meeting that kind of happened there on Twitter. Yeah. He looked pretty intimidating.
It was matter of fact.
It's straight to the point. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to operate. Left it in the guys' hands, and we saw guys stay. We saw guys leave, and that's kind of in the best interest of them. And I think when you look at a guy, it's easy to say Jaheim White, right? But you look at a guy of Jaheim White who's going to benefit so much from this offense and everything that Rich Rod's going to do for him, to the point where that guy, if he has the year that we're all expecting, we're going to be talking about a guy that's like borderline early to second or mid second round pick in the NFL. That's like the type of caliber player that he is paired in this system. So it just kind of works that way. It's different for every single guy. If they think it'll benefit for them, they stay. If they want to see if the grass is greener on the other side, let them go.
And I love that he's not too attached to any one player. He wasn't, literally not. No. Maybe you can say Nico or somebody like that. I don't know for sure. Seems like he was pretty happy with the quarterback room. But let's go to break one more time. On the other side of the break, we'll continue this conversation because I want to get into a couple players. I've actually got some video of a couple players that I want to show everybody. We'll get into that next. This is Locked On West Virginia. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we are back here in segment 3, Locked On West Virginia. And so, this is the time for me to pull up a couple guys that I've been banging the drum for this offseason and let you guys see them too. And I'm curious, have either of you two seen Ben Bogle yet?
I have not.
No, Ben Bogle.
Okay,
no.
Ben Bogle is a linebacker that we picked up out of Southern Illinois who, obviously, linebacker, a big question, key area for us this offseason. You got Reed Carrico. Obviously, we got the kid from Colorado State that a lot of people love. But who was going to fill these spots at linebacker? And I've been beating the drum for this kid. So just really quick, we're not going to watch all these highlights or anything like that. I want to show some people the Ben Bogle footage because, man, it is so fun. And I'll tell you what. The kid is so good. He really is. So let me pull it up here. I'll share the screen with everybody. This has been Bogle, a linebacker, like I said, out of Southern Illinois. And, I truly think will be a starter at linebacker before the season's over with. Here he is on the edge against BYU. First play I ever saw him do. And he absolutely destroys the running back and right tackle and gets to Retloff. And this is a inside backer, but he plays on the edge as well as anything. Here he's on the edge again, making a play. But here's where he shines, fellas. Watch this kid go into gaps and hug up against offensive linemen and get the ball carriers. It's truly impressive the way he does it. And I just love, like right there, boom, the way he gets through there. So skinny. It's a thing they call getting skinny, right? And he's able to get skinny right there. And just look how he hugs the guard right here and gets through to the ball carrier. And he does this. If you watch actual game footage of Ben Bogle, he does this over and over and over and over and over and over again. Literally, there he is again. And he's got such great bend and such great hips. I really do think this is a name Mountaineer fans will be learning a lot about come upcoming season. This kid can do it all. Now, in the past, I don't know as much about him there, but as far as evaluating him as a run defender, he is very, very good. That's one player I wanted you guys to see. Did you guys have any opening thoughts on him there?
Well, I'll go. No, any linebacker that can not only be a true run stopper, any linebacker who can get off the edge and create quarterback pressure, sign me up. I don't care where you're from.
Yeah.
I don't care. Because if you're going to give production, not only in the run game, but in terms of sack production, yeah, I mean, like you said too, it's a position of that leading up to the season has been kind of question marks, but this is my first time seeing him. I mean, I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I mean, I put you guys on the spot here, so apologies, but
no, you're good.
Noah, did you have any thoughts on Bogle there? I mean, obviously you're on the spot, but
I think you hit it though. I mean, just watching those plays, I mean, I knew we had him as an addition in the offseason. I didn't go back and watch film as closely as you did there, but just watching those plays, exactly what you pointed out, bend at the hips, able to get around, stay tight to the guard, get to the back. I mean, just really, really good football. And the thing is, though, when you add that into a Zach Alley defense where he's able to, scheme him open, to get open rushes, to get, blitzes, to blow up plays in the backfield, that's what's going to be very exciting to see, come season.
Now I've got a big hot take for you guys. This is Sincere Bowers, and I'm curious how many people have seen him yet. I know my people have seen him. So I've said this multiple times. There's some debate on whether he'll be this year or next year. He's in junior college. He's up there with one of the most electric players I've ever seen. He's more electric than any player that Neil Brown brought in ever. That's how good this kid is. And I'm going to show you. Last year, he had 1,702 all-purpose yards, number one in the country at 154 yards a game and 14 touchdowns. And this is returning kicks. This is returning punts. This is in the backfield. And as a receiver, he's literally a five-tool baseball player on the football field, if you want to use that analogy. Check out Sincere Bowers, 4.3 speed. He's literally got it all. You guys will be really excited to see this. And here's one other thing I'll tell you. The guy that put me onto him, that evaluated him, said, look, if he stays until next year, there's a great chance West Virginia doesn't get him. So we've got him. He's committed. But there are people out there that think if more exposure happens for him, it's going to be hard to keep him. So we'll see. But this is a kid that's got elite speed. He's got elite agility. And I don't throw the elite word around very often at all. But this kid blows my mind completely every time I watch him. And I'm not even trying to oversell it. He does things that really remind me of Tavon. He does. And I don't know if he is that caliber of an athlete as Tavon was. It's hard to get to go up that high. But that's the skill set, is what I like to say. That's his skill set. It's Tavon Austin-esque. As you can see, he splits safeties every time he gets the ball. It's a wrap for him. I mean, he bounces his head off the goalpost almost every time he gets the ball. And when you watch him in kick return, punt return, here he's in kick return. This looks almost exactly like the kick return of Tavon versus K-State. The way he cuts the thing up and everything straight up the middle. So he does everything for this squad, man. And, I've spoken with him. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I know that the coaches wanted him to come in for this year. And God, I hope he does, because this kid is so gifted. Look at this. Look at that movie just put on the backer. Put this kid up against the linebacker and watch this movie puts on him. It's a wrap. You can't guard this kid with the linebacker. It's not happening. Great hands. And then the elite long speed just to get away from everybody, and it's not close. And he plays in the Jayhawk Conference, which is the SEC of junior college football. So, this is one I am very excited about. And I just pray that West Virginia somehow, some way gets him in 2025 for this upcoming season. I just don't know if it's a credits thing or not. So there he goes again. But this kid does it all. You guys have any thoughts on this kid?
I think this is kind of a testament, right, to going back to the beginning of this, where we started talking the eyes that Rich Rod has for talent. I mean, you look at some of the guys on the team currently. I mean, we brought in the wide receiver from the PSAC school, Division II, who's going to have a chance to contribute a lot, I think, this year. And I know I'm blanking on somebody else, but I just think in general, he is now kind of, I don't know if it was where he dropped down to Jacksonville State and it kind of changed his recruiting philosophy, the way that he looks at players, where he looks at players. But
he's also familiar with those players.
Yeah, familiar. When you're now diving into the JUCO and Division II and pulling these guys at UC talent, and that's where I trust Rich Rod more than Neil Brown, right? If he's looking at somebody, on film and saying, I have a spot for this guy in my offense, I see the vision. If he has the vision, then I support it.
Right.
Yeah, just to comment, kind of like piggyback off what you were saying again, is like that's elite level speed. You can tell the way he splits the safeties, and especially in the Jayhawk conference with JUCO football, that's an elite conference, right? That's no joke.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys are going Division I very quickly.
Bounce back, right? They're bounce back players. A lot of them. They're just
if he's splitting safeties at that level, and additionally, he seemed very like slippery in the sense if a guy might touch him, I mean, it's not like he's going down. And usually when you see a smaller, elusive back, that's something that, you kind of question. But he seems kind of slippery in the fact Jaheim White's another, a slippery guy that not the first, two hands on him, he goes down. So I really hope he comes in for this season. But man, we're getting that running back room full for sure.
Yeah, and that's not even considering. I mean, you think about all the players we brought in. I didn't even show you guys Cannon Katzer. I'll show you guys, and I don't know, you may know about him already, but he's another really good player that I like we brought in. But Jalen Knighton, obviously, was a huge pickup out of SMU, super explosive. What he did at Miami was very impressive. 4-star player in his day coming out. So, there is a ton of talent on this roster. And a lot of these guys you look at Justin Harrington at Oklahoma in 2023, was a really good player in the back end for them, started and then got injured, season-ending injury, and then didn't even play at Washington last year. So, what are you getting? Are you getting the guy that played at Washington, or are you getting the guy that played at Oklahoma? That's a big distinction. If you get the guy that played at Oklahoma, you've got an all Big 12 caliber defensive back, and so you take a guy like Jamori Robinson, right, or Michael Coates. Like, they paid those guys big money not to go other places. They did. So it's going to be fun to talk about, man, and see exactly how this all plays out. 60+ players or whatever it's going to be, 55 or 60. He did it last year, but at a lower level. So want to switch gears really quick, guys. We got a couple minutes left, and we haven't talked any basketball yet. And I'm really itching to get your guys' thoughts on the basketball off season. So whichever one of you guys want us to talk on this. So same kind of deal. Give me your grade for Ross Hodge. And if you got a player or something, or, coach or whatever you want to shout out, or just any thoughts you have.
Noah, you take it away first, man. Basketball is your, I would say, expertise.
Yeah, getting into basketball, I mean, there's so many ways you can go, and you can look at the losses that, we had. You're losing what I think is an NBA guard in Javon Small,
right.
Losing the DeVries' son, Tucker, I guess we'll name him here. You're losing a lot of talent, although we didn't see DeVries play a lot last year for whatever reasons we won't get into there. But I think Ross Hodge and his player additions were a grade A, because I think he fits the system, and you can see his build and what he's trying to do in his mind. He wants guys that defend, and he wants guys that shoot the three-point ball at a high clip. It's almost like he's, emulating Houston in the sense of, like, he wants a team that'll sit down and play defense, and we're going to get open shots. It's funny. I watched Caridi, 3 guys before the game there, and I saw Eagle Staff come on their show last week, and I've watched Huff's episode, and I watched Jasper Floyd. They've had all those guys on there just to get to know the player a little bit, because, what's the chances I get to speak to one of those guys, and have an interview with them? I'd love it, but watching Eagle Staff and the way he approaches the game And the way he realizes that having another elite guard like Huff beside him will really, really take his game to the next level, getting him open shots. I mean, whenever you watched him in the Alabama highlights, and I think it was
Southern Illinois.
Yes, whichever team it was. He had 50
or no,
and
South
41
Dakota
on
State. You're right.
South Dakota State, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just
when
thinking
he
about
had
Ben Bogle still.
when he had his big games, a lot of his shots were contested, step back, fade away,
Beautiful.
mid-range jump shots. He's offensively, he's very gifted. Watching what the NBA teams said about him, you know, hey, if you work on your defense, which I think Ross Hodge will get him right for that.
Yep.
I think Eagle staff is going to be an NBA player. I'm not saying he's going to be a guy that goes in and gets minutes, you know, right now, but he will be a very, very quality contributor, a guy that can knock down shots. But a guy that I think slipping under the radar is Brennan Laurent, the guy that he brings with him from North Texas, because he has the NBA frame. He has it. And in the Big 12, his length, his elite, the ability to set down and guard is just exactly what you need to, you know, kind of set down and, you know, solidify your defense and know that, you know, if this guy's around the ball, you got to watch your passes. You're not going to beat him at the rim. I think Laurent is very, very solid addition to West Virginia.
Well, you weren't lying, Gage.
Yeah.
This is his expertise, isn't it? Now you got to go after him.
I
set
know,
yourself
right?
up for failure.
I know. That's all right, man. I gotta give him his praise, give him his shine every once in a while. But I'm glad he left me. Hey, I'm glad he left me somebody awesome to talk about, right? I'll talk about Honor Huff. First off, any guard from New York that comes to West Virginia, sign me up.
Pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck Bryant, all this. I mean, it feels like any guard that we have come from up there is absolutely awesome for us. You can start with the fact that at Chattanooga, right, you're looking at a 40% three-point shooter. And when you look at kind of the way Noah mentioned, it looks like it's modeled after Houston, but Mountaineer fans will appreciate the change and success that we'll see from football. And then it'll kind of be the same thing heading into basketball. We're going to see a different style of basketball than we did this past season under DeVries era, where it's going to be this kind of defense first. So there's a little bit of Huggins kind of in there, but I also think that this kind of half-court offense especially is going to be it's going to be so much more efficient than what we saw in recent years. And that's kind of the staple of what Ross Hodge kind of builds his teams on, right? We're going to sit down, play physical defense, and get the best look possible on the offensive side of the ball. And it helps when you have a guy like Honor Huff, who, 15 points a game at Chattanooga. I mentioned the three-point shooting percentage, but this is also a guy who can create a shot. And I don't necessarily think it's on the level of what we saw of like Miles McBride in college level, but it is
right.
Very close, right? And I also think that this is a guy that has room to grow. Same with Eagle staff, right? While yes, we had 50-point games, phenomenal score, there's a reason that he's not going to the pro level, right? And I'm not saying that in the sense of he's not good enough. I'm saying it that he hasn't reached his full peak yet. And I think the main contributors for the basketball side of things this upcoming year, that's kind of the glaring theme. These guys are good, great, but room to grow, which is good.
Totally agree, man. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And guys, before you get off of here, man, let's tell everybody what you guys are up to. You got a channel. Where can everybody find you? What are your socials? That kind of thing.
Yeah, man. So YouTube, X now, formerly Twitter, Kickoff to Tip Off. I believe our YouTube has a 0 on it. We're trying to clear the username to get the number off of it. But Kickoff to Tip Off 0 on YouTube. And yeah, man, we're just like you said, we're super thankful that you're helping us out here and get a chance to work with you and talk some ball. And it's a pleasure, man.
And you guys have represented yourself very, very well. And I can't thank you guys enough for coming on short notice. It was fun talking ball with you guys, man. And hopefully we have a lot more to talk about this season. And look, no reason to be a stranger, guys. If you guys ever want to come on or even invite me on, I'll definitely come on. We'll talk some ball, you know. If you can't tell, I'm doing this every day anyway. So I'm going to be doing it somewhere, whether it's here with you or somewhere. So I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it. And that's kind of where Gage and I are at. We talk ball anyways. Why not record it and push out some content?
Great point. All right, guys. So here's what I want you to do. Make sure as soon as you leave here, go over to Kickoff to Tip Off. If you're in the chat, I'm asking you for a favor. Michelle, Eric, Jeff, Nathan, David, all you guys, please, Raven, Burdette, all you guys, please, John, Larry, if you can, please go over to Kickoff to tip off and get these guys some extra subscribers. They're Mountaineer fans. They're Mountaineer faithful. They're just starting to channel out, and there's no reason we shouldn't help them out, So I think they deserve that. And I'll also go in the Discord and ask some people to give them some subs, but they deserve it, man. So keep an eye on what they've got going on, and we'll absolutely push you guys their way when we can. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been a great time. Before we go, let me read this for you. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your very first listen, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We talk about your team every single day. If you could do me a big favor, also, outside of Kickoff to Tip-Off, check out the Portal Show, because, listen, I know I was your first listen today, but for your second listen, the Portal Show. And Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings, and you can be the most informed fan on the rapid changes in the college landscape over on Portal Show, whether it's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. All right, Noah, Gage, anything else you guys want to say before you go?
Good, man. Appreciate you as always.
It. Yep,
all right, guys, that's all for us on this one. I've got a great idea for an episode that just hit me right before we come off here. So I might be doing that tonight. I'll see you guys here in a bit. Until then, we're out of here.